Hello, today we are going to talk about language policy and planning in Colombia and some key concepts about it. So, first, let's start saying that language is not only a tool for communication, it is deeply connected to culture, identity, and power. Language policy and planning refers to decisions and actions taken by governments or institutions to influence how languages are used, taught, and valued in society. In multilingual countries like Colombia, LPP plays a crucial role in shaping education and identity, as I mentioned before. So, some key concepts are language policy, that is a set of official rules or decisions about how languages should be used in a country. Language planning, that is the process of developing strategies to implement these policies. And bilingualism, that is the ability to use two languages. In Colombia's case, the focus has been on Spanish and English. But of course, there are many others languages that exist in this country.
In Colombia, language policy doesn't just live in government documents. It comes to life in classroom, textbooks, and in the languages that are heard or silent in schools. The National Bilingualism Program, or PNB, promotes the idea that English is the key to development and global competitiveness. On the surface, this seems like a positive goal, but what does it actually mean for students and teachers across the countries? In urban areas like Bogota, Medellin, or Cali, many schools have access to trained English teachers, digital platforms, and even bilingual programs. For these students, English may truly open doors. But in rural, indigenous, or marginalized regions, the situation is very different. Some schools lack English teachers altogether, or the teachers available haven't received proper training, um, and classes may be given without books, without internet, or not at all. What's even more troubling is that while English is being promoted, the mother tongues of many communities are not even acknowledged in the classroom. Languages like Wayuunaiki, Nasayuwe, and Palenquero, vibrant, cultural, and deeply rooted, are often ignored or replaced. This reflects what linguistic Roy Phillipson calls linguistic imperialism. Um, the spread of a dominant languages like English at the expense of local languages and identities. It creates new forms of inequality in education, access, and self worth. Imagine a Wayuu boy who is expected to learn English in a school that doesn't respect his native language or culture. He's not only struggling with a foreign language, he is also being told directly or indirectly that his own language has no place in education, and this is a triple exclusion. This kind of bilingual policy can seem inclusive on paper, but in practice it promotes hierarchical bilingualism, where only Spanish or English are valued and all other languages are seen as irrelevant or optional. In contrast, scholar Nancy Hornberg, through her continua of bilateracy, show us that bilingualism is not one size fits all. Real bilingualism connects global and local, writing and oral, dominant and minority languages. She advocates for policies that respect and integrate local languages into education. In Colombia, this would mean moving from an English for all approach to a contextualized multilingual model, where learning English is important but not at the cost of erasing other languages. In short words, or in short words, language policy is not neutral. It shapes what we teach, how we teach, and how students see themselves. A policy that ignores community languages doesn't just marginalize speakers, it limits their right to learn with dignity and identity.
Some authors of this series that have talked about this is Robert Philipson in his theory of linguistic imperialism and Nancy Haberger in his theory of continua of biliteracy that shows that bilingualism is more complex and depends on the context, identity, and access. One of our principal reflections are that as speakers of Spanish and while we are learning and teaching English, and growing up in a country where many languages exist, we know that not all are equally valued. Maybe we don't speak an indigenous or Afro-Colombian language, but we understand that they are part of Colombia's cultural richness. So we are very influenced by the global ideas that say English brings success and opportunities. But we also see the risk of linguistic inequality. If we ignore local language and cultural identities in our classroom, they might be lost. And of course, we don't want to do that. Some challenges that still are emerging, or actually they are many years before, are unequal access to resources. Students in rural or marginalized communities may not have the same access to English education. Loss of local languages. As I said, promoting English without acknowledging the local language could contribute to language shift and identity loss, especially in indigenous communities. Rigid curriculum requirements. National standards often don't leave room for multilingual or intercultural approaches. We may face the pressure to teach to test instead of adapting to our students' realities. And some opportunities we can see. We can promote intercultural understanding. We can use English classes to celebrate cultural diversity and create spaces for students to share their own languages and experiences. Being a bridge. We can help students connect global opportunities through English, while also validating their social identities and languages. Critical pedagogy. Inspired by Paulo Freire and Nancy Haberger, we can also encourage students to think critically about language, power, and identity, making the classroom a place of empowerment, not just instruction.